Paula. I am the co-founder and head of production at Zaratan Studios.
Hi, I'm Andrew Pearce. I'm co-founder and executive producer at Zaratan Studios. I started my journey in the animation industry as a storyboard artist, but then very quickly moved into production, where I started as a junior and then moved slowly up. And actually, Paula hired me in a studio called Axis, where I produced, and then I moved into exec producing, which is pitching and developing ideas, winning the projects, and then overseeing them.
And I started in the animation. So I used to work in commercials and was working with a studio called Axis. So eventually made the leap, started working with them, and spent 19 years of my career growing as a producer and then ending up as a head of production at the studio.
For the past 5 years, we've been very exposed to this big growth in animation, which is older-skewing adult animation. We see it with Love, Death and Robots, Arcane, Blue-Eyed Samurai, Invincible. And we knew that there were lots of projects coming up in 2025, 26, which we wanted to be part of. That was the gap in the market. So we came up with this business model where we could align with brilliant studios around the world to pitch on these large projects and become part of the productions.
And I think it was also, everybody knows the state of the industry just now is still in quite a dynamic state and fragile state. And we knew sort of that whatever model of business that we made had to be adaptive and had to be, responsible with our production. So a partner-based model really suited us at this point.
Why now? Why is genre older-skewing animation a thing now? A lot of it is to do with video games. The video game audience is now, the gamers span all ages. And gaming is an animated medium. And all games pretty much are genre entertainment. So it was natural for places like Netflix and Amazon and Disney to think, well, why don't we just tell stories in this space? And then you got this great tie-in between video games and animation. And you see it in live action as well with shows like Last of Us.
I think collaboration is like number one. When I spoke about our business model being partner-based, and again, that stems, to the core of how we like to operate and run productions in a collaborative space. You get the best out of, both sides, your clients, your teams. So yeah, and meticulous planning. Again, that normally operationally making sure that the production is in good hand, it's been well looked after, but chiefly, we've worked on some pretty tough shows, and a lot of the times it's a marathon, not a race. People have to have stamina, longevity, and they need to stay motivated. So a lot of what we do is working on the team dynamics, the relationships within the project teams, not only internally, but with the clients and partners, to make sure that everybody feels invested and motivated, cares. And at the end, when we deliver it, they're ready to do it all again for, the next one.
All of the sort of world-leading storytellers that we work with, showrunners or directors, they want to put their stamp, their voice on the project. And that's really important. If the project doesn't have a creative voice, then the audience feels they've seen it before. And that is a major turn-off. Literally, they will turn off the TV. So part of what we do is, like Paula was saying, we find the right artists for each project that match each creative. And that will mean seeking specific individuals for specific roles from around the world. And that's how you generate these new looks and these new styles and these new way of telling stories. So we started Baahubali as a collaboration with Anaventure, who's our partner studio. And we were brought in because it's in this new space of older-skewing animation. And so we helped to pitch on it, and then met Shobu and Ishan and the creative team And our goal was to create a unique visual style and establish the creative direction of the visuals. So we brought on, as we always would, we cast according to the creative, and we found artists and animators who were absolutely perfect for this type of work. And we created a look of picture. And the goal of the look of picture is to show what this world will look like with a little drama, a little action, so that people can get excited about the movie, but also understand what it is, how it's going to work visually.
We're also responsible for the pre-production, so the story. We've done design support for main characters, and we're going to be working on the previs as well of the movie. So again, really working closely with Ishan in establishing the creative direction of this incredible story, and it's going really, really well. Like, I can't speak highly enough of the creative team. The collaboration's been just excellent. Ishan and the team at Mahira and Arka have really given us a lot of space to iterate, to discover what we need to discover. And now we're in the process of, now honing what that story is going to be, and getting deeper and deeper into the production.
We're working with a French team on this one called Alcide, who are absolutely brilliant at not just the sort of concept art and the viz dev side of things, but also bringing that to life in CG. And also on the story and previous side, we're working with Les Androids, also in Paris, who are just absolutely brilliant at telling stories and then again bringing them to life in CG and bringing the energy and the dynamic cameras that we need for this story. I mean, the reason we're here is because of how excited we are about how India is evolving, especially here at Assemblage. I see it exploding, to be honest. Not just in this sort of as a vendor and working on major productions. I think they'll be the biggest productions in the world and the most ambitious creatively. Working with India and Indian talent is very much the cornerstone of how we're going to deliver the ambition of these projects. I think India will be, the way it will evolve will become more and more producers of their own content. And that itself becomes very useful for like Los Angeles-based creators, because they need people that they can work with who have been through the process of creating. So they've got a partner who understands those challenges of creating something from nothing.
And finding scale. Again, as Zaratan, we're small. We want to stay that way, a good reason. But for that reason, we need to establish partnerships, across the world. And we have this, this closeness with Assemblage, who we rate highly. The quality is there. And very, very excited. It feels like we're just at the beginning of a really exciting journey. Yeah,
working with Indian studios and Indian talent, scale is a really important factor, because like we say, we're seeing this as an explosive part of the market, of the type of entertainment, and we're going to see it grow a lot. But the ambition behind these shows is such that you need massive studios to deliver, a lot of people, and India has this very long tradition of supplying animation productions with people power. So I think that will only continue to grow. I think India will become known for both service work and original productions. Potentially as well, what we would think of as in between that, where they are taking major IP and expanding those worlds into films and to TV production.
And again, I think maybe, your traditional producers, who've come from a live action, have maybe before never really thought about animation, and had a perception that that's for a younger audience, whereas now actually that landscape is wide open for them for the taking. So it's really exciting to kind of see producers like Shobu Yarlagada engage in an animation project for an established IP. If you think about how many amazing, IPs there are in India, there's so much potential. And I think it's only a matter of time before that begins to get exploited in the best way, and the audience is being teed up for that.
Part of Zaratan is the idea that we are fans of what we make. So pretty much any genre stuff we like. So that could be sci-fi, horror, fantasy, superhero, anything like that we think is great. And we like what everybody likes. We like Marvel, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, anything like that. Video, all the major sort of video games.
Yep.
Yeah.
Music as well. Like music is a huge influence in what we want to do. So in our projects, we not only want to tell great stories, but we want visually, but also have a sound component to it. Sound can play such a huge part in any kind of storytelling, and that's definitely something that we want to bring to our projects as well.
I think the best example of something that's happening right now is the Baahubali Eternal War project, which it's aiming for what you'd call a YA, young adult audience, but will be accessible by a family audience, adults as well. And right from the start, there's a strong musical component to it. And the style skews old. It feels a bit like the same space as Arcane. Paula and I have worked across a few older-skewing animation projects in the last 5-10 years. Recently, we did Eyes of Wakanda for Marvel. Before that, we did a feature called Scrooge for Netflix, which was a take on A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, but with a sort of contemporary twist, music, and a bit of edge. The Zaratan team has worked on Love, Death and Robots and Secret Level as well for Pearce Studios. And yeah, where are we going next? I think we're building a new slate right now of properties within this space. So we're very interested in anything genre, as we've said before. Right now, I'm particularly keen to find properties in what you'd call the folk space, folk stories, and maybe how that merges with the horror space. It's an interesting space. So Indian folklore, Indian mythology is really exciting for us, and it's another reason why we're here talking to the team.
We aspire to kind of be involved in a project that is heavily influenced by music or has a musical element to it, and also sort of immersive experiences. So you have this amazing opportunity now with technology as it is to series or a movie and actually bring all of that experience, theatrically, or, you see lots of theme parks now, rides based on known IPs. So to be exploring that, and again, with partnerships, experts who can help us deliver these new innovative ideas. The quality is, I think, the first thing. You assess that studio's output, then you want to meet the team. You want to get to the heart of who's running this, who's involved, who is bringing the magic, collaboration, openness, transparency. I think that diligence as well. I really want to hear from a studio. I don't want the sales pitch. And again, this is just me. I really am interested in their process and how they go about, that partnership, because, as I said before, it can be a really long runway, and you want to make sure that you're aligning yourself with people who are like-minded, shared values to an extent, in your work ethic and your ultimately your ambitions, because there's always challenges to be overcome, and you want to know that you can have these really difficult conversations and actually just get past that and still stay motivated and everything. It's a huge part of how we go about selecting, who we're going to partner with. But creatively, they have to have the creative chops, the creative quality for us to be able to deliver the kind of projects that we want to deliver.
We've built Zaratan with this global network of connections because you need to matchmake. You need to find like I said, the perfect person for the right project. But it's also about finding the right studio. And like Paula says, a lot of that is down to the attitude of the studio, the ethos of the studio, and how do they go about productions? Does it fit well with our values? Is this going to be a match that is going to take us through this marathon, which is very difficult?
Yeah, it's not about telling us what we want to hear. It's about being real with the situation and being prepared to have those tough conversations and overcome them together. Because,
Yeah, being open and sort of unafraid to talk about issues is just so important. So we very much look for studios and individuals who have that sort of openness and that sort of frankness at the core. Their leadership are like assemblage. The leadership is very, very, I can't think of a better word to say it.
Self-aware. I think that they're self-aware. They spot, whenever we're going into something new, they spot where the vulnerabilities are and they tackle them head on. And that's really, really important, and quite rare. A lot of studios or people will sort of try and mask that and just show you what you want to see. And actually, for me, I want that self-awareness, of where the weak spot. Why would we fail? Why would this project fail? And actually get ahead of, those issues, because everything else is will kind of fall into place. But it's these kind of weak spots that you want to be prepared for.
Also, we love a sort of willingness to adapt. Each project is going to be different, and the challenges are always unique. So the one thing you need above all else is this willingness to learn from previous experiences and then adapt to the new landscape. I think any studio going into older-skewing animation, especially if you're working with a major IP, is like an affinity to the story, which means you've got to love it. You've got to be a fan. Also, you've got to show that you get it. You've got to show that you understand why people love it, and you've got to have the taste so the IP owners and the buyers can trust you that you're going to make good judgments, good creative judgments all the way through, because the volume of work is so high. You need that creative trust with the buyers. And the way we do that, the way we approach that is we establish that trust very early on. We get involved super early.
Casting, for me, it's always back to casting. And particularly for content, for this genres of premium animation, the audience tends to have they're a bit more demanding than perhaps, your preschool and younger audiences. So you do have to have a level of sophistication is the wrong word, but nuance to what it is that you're about to create. You need to show that you get it, but visual exploration, new looks, new styles, always pushing the story forward. Why? And always asking sort of, why does this benefit from being animation? What can animation do to push the story forward? And having people who think in the right way will ultimately, they're going to be a good match and establish trust with those people, in charge of the IP.
I think a lot of what people underestimate with working with these entertainment brands is the language that they're speaking. By that I mean, like, what's important to them? What of all the aspects of filmmaking, what does this project need the most? What does it live and die on? And we like to spend a lot of time really identifying what that is, so that, again, we can cast according to those needs.
We're so happy to be here, so excited for this partnership and everything that it's got to offer, for both of us. And when I say both of us, I mean Zaratan and Assemblage. Super exciting. We're at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to just overuse the word excited, but we're really super excited because Arjun and his team are just so passionate and they're so ambitious, and that matches what we want to do. I think we've only really scratched the surface of what animation can do, where it's going to go in the next 50 years. So yeah, just very, very happy to meet people who are like-minded, and also they've been great hosts. They've been looking after us, taking us for lovely food, showing us a small pocket of India, and I'm looking forward to coming here with my family and seeing a lot more.
Thanks a lot. Pleasure.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Don't